And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit, like God's property. It's hard to market, so we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. 'Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black and the vernacular that we're supposed to have.
This gentleman right here. Huh? What happened? No, this the gentleman right here with the camera in his hand. Wave your hand. Pastor.
James Wesley Carr.
Yeah, James Wesley Carr. No. What's your name?
Oh, Kelly Richardson.
Kelly Richardson.
Pastor Kelly Richardson.
He is a great grand-nephew?
Yeah.
Nephew of one of our first pastors. Yeah, as a matter of fact, that's his uncle right here in the corner of the actual stained glass window here to your left.
You got the eyes.
You look just like him. Got the same eyes. Anyway, come on, guys. Come on. Stand up there looking like. Look on the outside edge of the pews. Look on the outside edge of the pews where you are. You see the different markings alongside the edge of the pews? They represent the different tribes that made up our congregation back then and spoke over 6 different languages among themselves. These were small tribes enslaved by larger tribes and sold to Europeans as they came along the African coast. One of the major languages they spoke back then was that of Aramaic and also too of Hebrew, which means the writings read from bottom to top. Assalamu alaikum. Which means peace be unto you. It's not a Muslim term. It's actually the same greeting which Christ gave into the disciple when he met them in that region. Most countries in that region read from right to left. Here in America, we read from left to right. That's why the pastors in the stained glass window up front here are going in numbers 2 through 7 from the right-hand side over to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left.
This is First African Baptist Church, the oldest black church in North America. The building, built by slaves. The gentleman that laid the first brick laid the last. The balcony hold pews that actually were built by slaves. They have the oldest information in this building. That information is written in cursive Hebrew writing.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black and the vernacular that we're supposed to have.
Here's a chart that summarizes file class and length. And you can see across the top the 3 classes, A, E, and U. And then down the side the 4 lengths, long, medium, short, and very short. So let's just go over this chart. We'll start with the A class vowels. The long vowel is cholam vav, and you'll recall that this says O as in snow. Now you might wonder why an O vowel is in the ah class, and this is because of historical considerations. Originally there was no O sound in Hebrew. Everything that is a cholam vav used to be a long ah. If you know the Hebrew word for peace, it's shalom. If you know the Arabic word for peace, it's salam. And that long...
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
That's what the Zionists did, except instead of a baseball team, they went to try to convince the Jews that the Jewish people are a nation, like France and like Spain. We'll get a land, that's Israel, that's our stadium. We'll get baseball bats and balls, we'll create a language. They sat down to create a language because nations need languages. They sat down to create a language because nations need languages. They sat down to create a language. They sat down to create a language.
They sat down to create a language. Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
I want to say peace and blessings to you guys. I want to say shalom lak mash pakra. I want to say peace and blessings to you guys. I know that this is a short moment's notice live that I scheduled here tonight, and we got some things that we're going to cover here. And I want to make it clear because I am going to touch on a video, and I'm actually going to share it here. Truthunedited, his video that he did yesterday regarding, I believe it's called Yahuwah, the name of Yahuwah. And, you know, the reason why I am doing this is because of some of the things that were said. For those that are not using Yahuwah or Yahweh, he said some things that I just completely disagree. Now, I want to make this clear. This is not a video throwing shots at anyone. And I know that sometimes we can have people who can take this approach of being groupies, you know, being fans of groups or individuals, and can get into this very disrespectful trolling type behavior when someone says something contrary to that individual or groups that they support. So I want to make this clear. I have no ill wills towards Truth Unedited, but guess what? I am entitled to question or teach on something that was said or I disagree with. So I want to make sure we're on the same page with that. There's not a single line of text that says that it's a sin to question someone's teaching. And we see that in the scriptures. You know, Christ's own teachings were questioned. Moses' teachings, or should I say approach, was questioned. Paul. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page. I have no ill wills towards Truth Unedited. I commend him. He created a very large platform over there. I think he's pushing almost 1 million subscribers. So you do not get to 1 million subscribers if you're not putting in the work. Truth be told, you don't even get to the numbers that I have, or even matter of fact, I only say the numbers I have. It's not a given that you get 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So anyone that has 1,000 subscribers, you put in some work. All right. But let alone get to the numbers that he has, that's putting in a lot of work. So this is, I haven't said anything about anything that he teach or do. I have no ill wills towards him, but I am entitled to address something that I disagree with, and that is doctrine. So I want to make this clear, and for the trolls, you know, you don't control this platform. You can't control what I say. You know what I mean? Period. You know, create your own channel, create your own platform, build your numbers up. You can say whatever you want on your platform. All right. But I want to make this clear. This is not a diss video or whatever the case may be. This is a reactionary video to a teaching that he gave that I am totally in disagreement with. I understand certain positions at certain points, but I am totally in disagreement with it. Now, you guys already know on this end, Yahweh, right? That's the name of the Father. I stand firm on that. But you guys know I don't throw people under the bus if they're using any other name. Because one thing I do understand is that we all have a starting point, and not all of us is going to start at the same place. Some of us, it takes time, right? And if you go back and you listen to the Black Lives Matter video that I did, a speech that I gave, right, almost 10 years ago, actually, I think it was 10 years ago, you'll hear certain things that I've stated even in that video, and you see that I've progressed since then. So I'll make it clear, I don't know it all. Not a single person knows it all, including Truthunedited. He has his flaws, just like I had my flaws, and I had to learn. I had to correct them. So I want to make this clear. I am not here to throw any shade on any person. All right. But I am going to give clarity on a few things. All right. So let me go ahead and get started here. Let me pull up his video and then we'll get into my reaction, and I'll address some of the things that he pointed out. All right. So let me go ahead and let me get that out here. Let me add that here. And we're not going to play the whole video, but I just want to share my thoughts on it. All right, let's see here. All right, let me see if I can share this screen. And I'll drop the link if Berean Scholar or Sister Carol is in the building. I'll drop the link here in a second, but let me go ahead and share this. Let me go ahead and get this plane in the air. Let me share. Where's the... I got to stop the screen. Let me pull this over. All right. This is it. All right. All right, guys. Can you see my screen? If you can see my screen, type 1. If you can see my screen. All right, type 1 if you can see my screen. All right. Okay, now I'm going to test the audio here and let me know if you can hear the audio. Let's see here. All right, let's start right here.
And so this series is designed to teach you the Torah and the way of Yahweh according to his word.
You guys,
this is being done in hopes that it gives you strength, wisdom, and understanding to be where Yahweh desires you to be. And so we're going to start understanding the Torah. And to do this, we're going to start in a place I don't think most people expect, but it happens.
So let me pause it right here. I'm just going to drop the link here. And I want to say again, family, fair use. And this is a reactionary video to this particular lesson that he had done. All right. And as you can see, he has 792,000 subscribers. So he's putting in the work, family. He's putting in the work. All right. But let me drop this link. All right. Let's see here. All right, so let's go and get into it. Now, I'm going to play it here. I'm just going to go ahead and segue into it. Let him, I already gave you the segue, but let's go ahead and just transition into what what he said. Let's play the video. Okay, here it is.
To be the most important part of the whole series. Keeping the Torah means you are serving our Creator and living aligned to his ways and his desires. And he is the beginning of it all. And you cannot live righteously if you do not know the God that you are serving. Knowing him and loving him is the greatest commandment that you can fulfill. If you do not know and you don't keep the greatest commandment, when you stand before him, you will be rejected. And sadly, the majority in this world are in this path of judgment. Everyone thinks that they know the God of Israel. You would never hear a person from the Christian church speak as if they do not care about him or they do not know him. But unfortunately, the reality is the majority do not know him. You see, while most people have heard of him, they just don't truly know him. They know of him. They don't know him because the part of the Bible that they are told to disregard and not to apply is the part that actually explains who he is and how he wants us to regard him. The truth is that there is absolutely nothing wrong with his Torah. It has just been presented to you by people that do not truly know him or love him.
Fair use.
When you read his Torah to understand him, you come to have a deep love and deep reverence for him that brings you to a more connected relationship that you become more aligned to his will. In order for this relationship to grow, you must first come to know him more deeply and intimately. You need to understand him and how we're called to regard him. Understanding the Torah starts with knowing and understanding Yahuwah. And so the next two parts are going to be dedicated to understanding our Creator, the Most High, the most important one in our lives. He is who we live for and who we serve. You cannot get this subject wrong. This is a topic that is between life and death, heaven and hell. I cannot stress this enough. If you do not get this right, you will go to hell.
All right, so I want you to listen to it, family, and we're going to get into it because, like I said, listening to this video, and I have to say this, you know, this how he's setting this video up and how he's setting his lesson up. This gives the fire and brimstone. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the term fire and brimstone teaching, right? Approach, you know, really, you know, this video right here, especially placing the point of emphasis on the name Yahuwah. He's taking the fire and brimstone by stating that if you don't, and he's alluding to that if you don't get his name right, that is the difference between heaven and hell. All right. How many of you guys been introduced to a fire and brimstone meeting, ministry? Right. Matter of fact, some of you guys that probably grew up in the 70s, in the 80s, and actually I'll say 60s, 50s and all that. You guys, you know, and been introduced. We used to call it the Holy Rollers, and many of them were like Pentecostal ministries that if you went to the movies, they said that you were sitting in the seat of the scorn. It was a lot of different things that they came up with. And then the whole approach was fire and brimstone. You're going to hell. You're going to hell. You're going to hell. And truth be told, that comes from the slave plantation. That came from the slave master. You got the devil in you. Right? If you do anything outside or contrary to the law of that plantation. And I'll bring the source up to prove that. All right. Shout outs to you, Berean Scholar and Sister Carol. I want to say peace and blessings to you guys as we build tonight. I know this is a short moment notice type lesson here. So I appreciate you guys being on. So you guys know the routine. Feel free if you have any things that you want to say, just let me know. So let's go ahead and get it going.
Let's get it going. Shot one, brother.
All right.
Peace and blessings to you.
Peace and blessings to you, sis. My apologies. Here we go.
And I'm going to explain this to you now. You must know Yahuwah. You must know him, love him, and serve him. This is what you were created for. Do you know Yahuwah? After this video, you will find out. Let's begin. Okay, so who is Yahuwah? Yahuwah is the Elohim of Yasharel. He is the God of Israel. Yahuwah is his name. It is not the Lord. People call him the Lord because they practice the ineffable name doctrine that you should definitely not follow. I've made a specific video about this topic, so if you do not understand it, you can understand it from this video. If you are still calling our Father by the Lord, you should watch this video and understand the huge error that you're attached to.
Fair use. Listen close, family. Listen close.
So yeah, his name is Yahuwah. It was written by the writers of the Old Testament almost 6,000 times before the translators replaced it.
Now, I want to make sure you understand, family, right? And this is the things that we have to be careful and pay attention to what is being said, right? Yahweh, or these 4 letters that you see here, that is labeled as the tetragrammaton, in other words, 4 letters, that is what's written 5,000 plus times in the ancient text, right? But we're going to give clarity to it, but I want to make sure that you guys understand. So that way, there's, that we're not being misled. You're not being misled, or, from that number that you see that gives the impression that, oh, Yahuwah is 5,400 times. No, it's not Yahuwah that's mentioned 5,400 times in the text. So I want to make sure you guys understand. All right. We'll see these letters here, but we're going to deal with the pronunciation here in a little bit with sources. So we're going to break this down here. So I want to make sure the name of the Father, the written name of the Father is in there, but how do you pronounce it is the argument. So I want to make sure you guys understand this.
We keep his third commandment by saying his name and proclaiming it. You should know there is a strong satanic influence in this world to keep you from saying his name. Be aware of it. People will often try to speak against using his name. And again, this is only from the influence of Satan, whether it's intentional or not. I do not tolerate, nor do I deal with anyone that tries to speak against his name. People like to...
One thing I want to add, family, if you really study Isaiah 28, stammering tongues, that is the punishment, the judgment of learning the truth about the Father in a foreign language. That's what it really means. A language that's filled with insults and ridicule towards Yah's people, filled with contradictions to the language that we have. So many Christian churches, especially the Pentecostal movements or apostolic type churches, they'll take that and try to justify speaking in this so-called tongues versus actual languages. So the results of Israel mocking the prophet Isaiah, the Most High told them the judgment is going to be, Yah's people is learning this truth in the language of our oppressors. So I want to make sure you guys understand this. So guess what's going to happen? As we learn this truth and get back to our foundational culture, our true culture, there's a process. You're not going to have everything right. You're not going to have everything right as you continue to study to show yourself approved. You're going to have to go through the process. So I want to make sure you're clear on that, because again, at one time I said Jehovah. I understood the truth about Yahweh, but I Jehovah is what I used. And I'm sure you guys use others as well. But again, it is a process of when you're in captivity. Now you have to transition out of that captivity. Same thing with the Israelites coming from Egypt. Who taught them how to build the golden calf? Who taught them the songs that they sang that when erecting this calf? But anyway, any comments, guys, as we get ready to continue?
I'm glad you are approaching this passage, because it's intentional that we need to know that everyone has a learning curve, and I honor your being clear about, because I remember watching your first videos, and you're right. I saw how the progression you went through your learning, and I took the same approach when I came in to make sure that I found out, because all the teaching we got from the other institution were wrong. So we had to try everything by the scriptures. So thank you for that approach.
Amen. And before you go, Sister Carol, I want to say this, moderators. Anyone that's posting and trying to tell us what the name is, especially if they say Yahuwah, remove it. We're not going to have those trolls inside the chat. All right? Be respectful of this platform. Because number one, if you understand any type of etiquette, and some of you guys that have been in ministry, you honor the rules of the house. Now, I've been on places where they say Jesus. And guess what? I say Jesus honoring the rules of that house. I'm still going to say Yahweh Shah, but I say Jesus the Christ. I respect the rules of the house. So you guys are going to respect the rules of the house. When I see people making comments, trying to superimpose yourself on the rules of this house, that tells me that confirms that you have no etiquettes when it comes to respecting someone else's home. Over here, if we say take your shoes off at the door, guess what? You take the shoes off at the door, even if you got corns, bunions, and all that. Anyway, Sister Carol.
Not the corns and the bunions. You took what I was about to say. I'm glad that you are approaching the language appropriately. No one in the chat, including myself, have the right to state that the language that we're speaking now is the correct language that was spoken by our ancestors back when Hebrew language, ancient Hebrew language was created, because it's not the same. We are speaking English with vowels A, E, I, O, U, and sometimes Y. None of that was a part of the ancient Hebrew. So I want to lay that foundation right there. So let's just stop the foolishness. None of these vowels were used. Period.
Amen. Appreciate it, sis. All right, family, let's continue, because I'm gonna play a little bit more, and then I'm gonna put my presentation up. Excuse me, drinking my lemonade, cooling in the shade, sipping on lemonade, right? So it's going.
I hear you.
But anyway,
Tipping on the fofo.
so I'm gonna transition to my presentation. I'm gonna play a little bit more because it's a couple of points I want to play so that way you can hear it, and then we'll get to the presentation that I have created, so that way we can start addressing some of this. All right, here we go.
Tell you things that may sound convincing if you aren't well studied, and it may make you feel justified in your rejection of his name. People say things like, well, no one can know his name, stuff like that. But this is either from someone that hasn't studied, or they are purposely trying to keep you away from him. Because here's the simple to understand truth. His name was always written in the scriptures, written in Hebrew. The Old Testament is written in Hebrew. If people are trying to say that there is no way to know his name or to know how to pronounce his name, then what they are saying is that they do not truly believe in the Bible itself. They are saying that they don't believe anything that is actually written in the Bible, because his name is written in the same Hebrew that everything else in the Old Testament is written in. So if they don't believe that they would know his name that's in Hebrew, they are saying that they don't believe anything else that's written in the scriptures. And they're actually telling on themselves. Be aware of it. So let's deal with this now. What about Yahweh? Why don't you use that? You may say Yahweh, or you heard it like this. Please know the difference between Yahuwah and Yahweh is the difference between Paleo Hebrew and modern Hebrew. Yahweh is using modern Hebrew, and I do not agree, nor do I use modern Hebrew at all. So this is the difference that you hear. The difference between Yahuwah and Yahweh is the difference between Paleo Hebrew and modern Hebrew. I completely reject modern Hebrew and its origins. Modern Hebrew is a fairly new language, and much of it is credited to Eliezer ben Yehuda. He championed the idea of making these modern Jews speak this as a daily language. And this is recent, like in the 19th century.
Fair use.
Modern Hebrew was heavily shaped by Yiddish, because these Khazars who created this language in the 19th and early 20th century, they spoke Yiddish as their native tongue. This is easily researched information. So using Yahweh is using their influence, and I absolutely refuse to do so. On the flip side, you might also hear the Hebrew Israelites, they use Yahweh, and that is based upon Abba Bivens and the influence of that Masonic One West camp. This is also not Hebrew, and it should be rejected. They have added extra sounds to their name.
I'm gonna make sure you guys we're gonna give clarity on that, because he said that they have made extra sounds to the name, even though it's only one vowel that's being used with the consonants. Even though you have Yahuwah with an O sound, with an O and an A forming a diphthong, right? So we're going to give clarity on that, but I want to make sure you grab hold of that. So he's saying that Yahweh is at the influence of Abba Bivens, and he said the Masonic camps.
Yes.
Now, you know, in this awakening, right? That's a buzzword in this awakening. Masons, Masons, Freemasonry, the Divine Nine.
Yep, Boule.
Right. Those are buzzwords, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to give you. I'm going to give you clarity, and I'm going to play this clip again for those that roll with Truth Unedited, that is watching this video, that's in the chat right now. I want to make sure you listen to this again about the O sound, the O vowel.
Here's a chart that summarizes vowel class and length. And you can see across the top the three classes, A, E, and U.
Fair use.
And then down the
And this is
side,
Dr.
the four
Furtado.
lengths, long, medium, short, and very short. So let's just go over this chart. We'll start with the A class vowels. The long vowel is cholam vav, and you'll recall that this says O as in snow. Now you might wonder why an O vowel is in the A class, and this is because of historical considerations. Originally there was no O sound in Hebrew. Everything that is a cholam vav used to be a long A. If you know
All right, that's my little clip there for the trolls. I know that's going to be hard for many of you guys to unpack that there was no O sounds in ancient Hebrew. So the U comes from the O sound.
Yes.
And if you understand, even when we say A-E-I-O-U, that is actually the succession of the diminution of the original vowel, which is the A. So I want to make sure you guys hear that. That is a professor who has a lot of his works that's connected to a lot of these Bible apps. So I want to make sure you guys understand that. So let's continue here, and then we're going to put the presentation up here.
Particularly the vav sound. And here's another common misconception. This is
And we'll deal with the va. That's too easy. We'll deal with the va here, but let me pull it back just a little bit more.
And that is based upon Abba Bivens and the influence of that Masonic One West camp. This is also not Hebrew, and it should be rejected. They have added extra sounds to their name, particularly the vav sound. And here's another common misconception. There are many people that reject our Father's name and say his name is Ahaya Asher Ahaya. Or Christians say, I am that I am. They say that's his name. I mean, with Christians, I understand a little bit. I mean, they've been reading King James Bible versions that practices the ineffable name doctrine that completely removed our Father's name. So all they see in the Bibles is the Lord. So when they read Exodus chapter 3, verse 14, they see the only thing that refers to what to call him, and they just jump on it. This is one main reason why so many people call the Messiah their God.
So you notice how he gave concessions to Christians, right?
Right.
You know, saying, okay, listen closely, and I'll play it again. It's almost like, okay, yeah, well, I understand the Christians. Right? But going in, right?
Right.
Anyway, let me play it again. I want to make sure you guys catch it.
So all they see in their Bibles is the Lord. Understand a little bit. I mean, they've been reading Ahaya Asher Ahaya. Or Christians say, I am that I am. They say that's his name. I mean, with Christians, I understand a little bit. I mean, they've been reading King James Bible versions that practices the ineffable name doctrine that completely removed our Father's name. So all they see in the Bibles is the Lord. So when they read Exodus chapter 3, verse 14, they see the only thing that refers to what to call him, and they just jump on it. This is one main reason why so many people call the Messiah their God, because they do not understand what they're reading. So yeah, I kind of understand with Christians. It's not an excuse, but I understand why. For many of them, they just need to be taught about the ineffable name doctrine and understand that what the translators of the King James versions and all subsequent versions did with removing our Father's name. But there are many in the Israelite community that's moving off of plain wickedness, and I do not accept them because Ahia is not his name. So let me remove that confusion right now. We'll start in Exodus chapter 3, verse 13 and 14. It says, "Then Moses said to Elohim, indeed, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, the Elohai of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them? And Elohim said to Moses, Ahia Asher Ahia. And he said, thus you shall say to the children of Israel, Ahia has sent me to you."
Fair use.
Exodus chapter 3, verses 13 and 14. Now, in English, Ahia Asher Ahia translates to, I am who I am. Ahia translates to, I am. And so understand, because of this one verse right here in Exodus 3:14, this has created all the doctrines that I spoke of earlier. Now, let me say this. If our Father, if he just stopped talking, if he stopped explaining himself, if after you read this, the rest of what is written in the Torah, it confirmed this, then this would be undeniable. But I am very tired of people isolating scriptures and then teaching from it. They literally just stop reading on just so they can create their own doctrines. It's very irritating because understand, this is how false doctrine is created. Someone takes the verse and covers up what was written before it and what was written after it, just so they can make a claim. And because people don't study on their own, and because it just sounds good and they see it written like that right there, they just declare that as truth. What people...
All right, let me just stop right here. Let me get to this point right here. Because I don't want to, for me, it started getting to a little boxy, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't really agree with that approach.
That's exactly the point.
Let's see here. Let me look at this transcript. Because I'm trying to get to the section of the video when he justified using God. And throughout he says God, the God of Israel, and all of that.
I've heard him say that before in other videos.
Let's see here. If not, I got the quote anyway. All right, we're just going to transition because I don't want to play any more of the video. Like I said, start getting into a little soapboxy, like standing on a soapbox type thing. And I just really don't want to get into all of that. For me, it shifts my mood when I hear that type of approach.
Right.
Especially when I hear the information that's being stated along with that. So family, let me go ahead and remove this here.
And you gotta watch your sugar level.
Exactly, right. Got my sugar going up. For those that don't know, that's the old school. My grandmother, that generation was, instead of saying blood pressure, a lot of times they say sugar.
And my pressure.
Mm-hmm. My grandma's always just say sugar. She got my sugar going up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let me know if you guys can see this. See my screen here. Let me make sure it's displayed. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
All right. All right, family. We had a lot to unpack here, and we're not going to do it all tonight, but I just want to address and show you some of the contradictions in his statement here. And again, for me, I take a different approach, and my approach is similar to what the disciples took, and even what Christ took. When he got on the Pharisees, basically telling them that there's more things to focus on, versus tithing. They were just focusing on tithing. It was like, hey, there's other heavy weighted things to focus on. But then when we get to Acts chapter 15, there was a baseline that they started with. They didn't throw the whole book at the people, because I understand, you have to understand people have their different levels that they of understanding. Not everyone know what you know, so you got to know how to process or disseminate the information to them. So it's very imperative for you guys to take that approach and listen to the approach that I'm taking. So I even said it on this platform, and everyone that me, everyone that's been connected to this platform, me, and I've said this, like, hey, I've always said, hey, Yahweh is his name, but if you use whatever names that you use, that's your choice. I'm not going to knock you for what you use, just long as you don't do what try to knock me for what I use.
Right.
Then I have to, give the truth. All right. So let's go ahead and get into it, family. Let's get into it. All right. Let's get into it. So the truth unedited, the true name. Okay. This is his quote, one of his quotes. When they're saying Yahweh, for me personally, I generally do not get into debates about his name. My main problem and issue is with people pushing us away from praising our Father using his name. All right. So that's his quote. Now, the problem is that the preceding 10 minutes of his lecture are almost entirely devoted to debating the pronunciation of the divine name of Yahweh. He's debating, but yet saying, I'm not going to debate. I'm not into debating, but what is he doing? He's debating, family. He's debating. I generally do not get into debates. Yet throughout his lectures, he debates Yahweh, Yahweh, Ahia, Yeshua, Yeshua, Jesus, Lord, Jehovah, and the ineffable name doctrine. You heard it with your own ears. And in fact, this is one of the primary themes of the presentation. So his statement doesn't match what he actually spends time doing in his lecture. He goes on to say again, I'll highlight another point here. He says here, my main problem and issue is with people pushing us away from praising our Father using his name. So if this is his actual position, then he should have welcomed anyone using Yahweh, Yahuwah, or Yahuwah, all those different verbs, because at least they're making an attempt to get to the original. That shows growth. Because at one time we were just using what? Generic names like God and Lord. Am I missing something, guys?
No,
No,
you're
you're
right.
not.
You're right.
You guys heard me say this before. At least there is a progression. At least you're making an attempt to get to the original. Even if you went from saying Jesus to Yeshua, even if you went from saying God to saying just the short form of saying Yah, even if you went from saying just the short form of Yah to Yahweh or Yahuwah or Yahweh, at least there's a progression going that's taking place there. There's growth. But to say what he said, I don't agree with it. I really don't agree with it. Me, that's and brimstone, holy rollers type approach, and I don't agree with it. Any comments, guys, before I continue?
Yeah, Pastor.
You're absolutely right.
Can I inject something because
He's debating. He's always, well, if you notice in any of his videos, he's always debating an issue with others who bring other information. So that's his style of approach instead of just teaching. So I agree with you completely.
and the fact that can you hear me, Sister Carol? I don't think she can hear me. Can you hear me, Pastor?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's just Carol. I don't think Brother Berean, you can hear Berean Scholar.
No, I can't hear him at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me do this. Let me refresh right quick.
All right.
What I'm glad you are doing, Pastor, you're taking the same approach that Paul took in Acts in 17 when he was confronted the Athens, the men at Athens. He didn't come in and condemn them for all the statutes they had. He used that as an approach to preach to them about the Most High, so they can first hear his message and learn the truth.
Absolutely. And what did he say? We have like passion.
Exactly.
See, that's the part that stood out for me in that whole situation with Paul and Barnabas, right? Paul said to these people that didn't follow the Most High, and they were elevating him. He said, we have like passion. In other words, even though they may not have been following the truth, but guess what? They were just as passionate for where they were.
That's right.
So now it's like, if Paul is like, if I could take that passion and get you on this truth, man, you're going to do so much more. And think about it. Paul was in that same position. Paul had a passion and acquired taste to persecute his own people. But once he came to the other side of the Jordan, he took that same fire that he had going against to what? Defending.
And that's the main reason why the Most High chose him to do the ministry he had, because he knew how it was to be passionate, but to be wrong.
Exactly. So with that being said, family, we want to continue. So instead, he spends considerable amount of time condemning nearly every alternative pronunciation. Because last point I want to make too. See, I can get with that thing that Minnie was teaching, that, hey, if you didn't say the Most High's name, you're going to hell. What happened to our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our grandmothers? What happened to those that didn't have the opportunity to even learn? So you telling me they're going to hell? Even though Yahweh means he exists, but yet they're singing songs, I know he lives? Isn't that the proper transliteration of the Father's name? Ahaya is a declaration saying, tell them I exist. But he goes further and say, tell them Yahweh. And you'll see that in Exodus chapter 15, I believe verse 3-5. Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. But anyway, family, this is why it's hard for us to make progress. Because of when we take that hardline approach, now guess what? Now you could turn off more people than you can, far as bringing them in and then teaching them the proper way. But anyway, he spends considerable amount of time condemning nearly every what he perceived to be an alternative pronunciation. Right here, actually, you don't even look at it as an alternative pronunciation. This is his quote. Now, for clarity, I use the English word God here just to make the point clear and make sure it's understood. He says that. So he's going to condemn not saying Yahuwah, and he's going to call out using the word Lord, but he makes concessions for himself. Am I missing something, guys?
No, you're right. And like I said, and I was just minding the chat this time because some people still don't understand the reason why you're doing this. It's the pronouncing of the truth, because what was said has nothing to do with truth unedited, but the truth has to be put out there.
Exactly.
And another thing, he does not have to contact him to discuss this. He put a video out. We are discussing the video and correcting information from what he taught in the video, because our people go to that channel too, like myself, because I've listened to some of his videos, for correction and clarification. That's it.
So let me say this too. And again, this is not bashing anyone, but I have no obligation to go to anyone. Technically, I don't know who Truth Unedited is. He don't know who I am. He's not consulting any of the camps prior to him referring to them as he referred to them, did he?
Exactly.
Did he go to any of the churches? Did he go? And
I'm not saying he didn't. And I even come to you.
You know, so my point that I'm making is, please don't get selective. Now, if I was bashing a pastor, if I was calling out a Christian pastor, none of you would say, did you go to that pastor?
Correct.
I can guarantee, did any of you guys, when I showed my videos on the pastors and teaching, did have any one of you guys ask the same question? Did you go to that pastor? So let's reel it in, family. But anyway, I want to get through this because I want to be up too late because I do got to work in the morning. So, but nevertheless, family, this is for clarity. This is not throwing any personal shots at Truth and Unedited. Again, I commend him for all the work that he's done. He's been putting in a lot of work, as I stated. But this is a doctrinal thing. And I'm going to address doctrine. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. You don't even have to watch the video. Just close out your browser. But anyway, family, but look at here. He says here, and if you have the video up, it's actually at the 29-minute mark, 29-minute, 53-second mark. He says, now for clarity, I use the English word God here just to make the point clear and make sure it's understood. All right, so that's a contradiction. He condemns Lord, but he freely uses the word God. He argues that replacing the divine name with Lord is taking the name in vain. Yet throughout his lecture, throughout his video, he says things like, who is the God of Israel? Yahweh is the God of Israel, our God, the God you serve. Wait a minute, but from one spectrum, you're saying not to use any other title, any other name but Yahuwah. He's literally said, you heard him say about using the word Lord. Okay. He grants himself permission to substitute the divine name with the English title God for clarity, yet he denies others the same freedom to use Lord for clarity. He goes on to say this, right? Again, I always say that what could be more meaningless than to not even say it or acknowledge it, to bring it down to merely a title like calling him the Lord. He said that. His own standards condemns his own practice. His arguments is that titles remove the Father's name. And according to his logic, as he broke it down, right, God is also a title. He says not using the name violates the third commandment. He argues that not saying the name is taking it in vain. Then why does he repeatedly say God? Why does he repeatedly say God? So by his own definition, every time he substitutes God for Yahweh, he is making the name secondary. Now, family, let me show you something real quick, because I'm going to go into some other stuff here just to deal with that contradiction, because he used God, right? And I want you guys to understand what the word God is, right? And I want you to focus on this tree trunk here. You guys probably saw this tree on some of my previous lives, but this is the Proto-Indo-European language. The trunk that I really want you to hone in on is the Balto-Slavo-Germanic trunk, right? You see the Proto-Germanic, and then it breaks into two groups here: the Northern Germanics, the Western Germanics, right? English is Western Germanics, right? And understand Germanic or German, that is what synonymous to Ashkenaz. Okay, so you have English, Frisian, High German, Low German, Dutch, Flemish, right? And then you have Northern Germanic, which you see Scandinavian, you see Danish, Swedish, Iceland, Norwegian. So, and here I overlook Gothic, but I want you guys to make sure this is all part of the Proto-Indo-European language. So now we have to start with, who is God? Because I got some things I'm going to break down real quick. Not necessarily just dealing with God, but we're gonna go back to that Bivens here in a second. But who is God? Who is God? This is the etymology dictionary definition of the word God, right? Supreme being, deity, the Krishna God, right? That's that's the initial entry to this. But when you go deeper into this, look at here. It says High German Gott with two T's. That's important to understand. Okay, so God is the singular and Gotter is the plural. Let me say that again. God is the Germanic singular, Gotter is the Germanic plural, all part of the Norse religion, right? The origins of God. I'm just going. I'm not going to say it the way that I have on the screen, just for the sake of those that may be watching, kids and all that. But I want to make sure I'm not disrespecting anyone. But that's anyway. Let's move forward. But Götterdämmerung, real quick here. Götterdämmerung, completely overthrow, twilight of the gods. So Götterdämmerung, right, is a place, right, where dead deities go to, right? And you have the word God, so Gotter, those are mortal deities, deities that die. Damarong is the place they go to, and Ragnarok is what kind of like the apocalypse for their deities, right? So you see here, it translates Old Norse Ragnarok, the doom or destruction of the gods, the last day, world's end. A better translation is Götterdämmerung. And when we look at Götterdämmerung, right, it says going into the shadow of the gods, often erroneously called twilight of the gods, the tectonic doomsday, when all the gods would be destroyed. So that word "got" that's the main point I want to make sure you guys understand. That word "got," G-O-T-T, or G-O-T-T-E-R, which is the plural, which that word God, G-O-D, comes from, that is referring to deities that die. So just that alone, that literally undermines his whole presentation that he's given. Right? It's literally undermining that. It really calls out the contradiction. All right, let's continue here. So the Vatican, right? We already dealt with that before, but I'm just going to show you how the Roman Catholic Church outlawed the use of the Father's name. Now, this is one source here. I'm not going to read this. I'm going to go to another source here, right? This is them outlawing using the Father's name. And this gives the same information. As you see here, it says the liturgical celebration in songs and prayer, the name of God in the form of the tetragrammaton is neither to be used nor pronounced, right? For the translations of the biblical text in modern languages destined for liturgical usage of the church. So this is making it clear how they're saying, do not use the Father's name, but use words like Lord, Senor, right? And also use the word God as their transliterations. Right, as you see here, Adonai is to be translated Lord, and the form God is to be used for the tetragrammaton. So it's making it clear it's not just Lord, family, it's Lord and God, the word God. And these are two Greek, Germanic, Norse words that the Roman Catholic Church decreed should be used in the place of the Father's name. And that's what this is saying right here. All right. Now, here's confirming this with another source. Oh, did I put it in here? Let me make sure I put it in here. The directives here, because he did give a directive. Let me make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself. Let's see here. Let me make sure I have it here. Because the Roman Catholic Church also gave directives stating the same thing. Let me make sure I have that slide here, because I was putting this together. All right. I'm going to have to copy. Yeah, I think all right. I didn't place it in here. All right. Let me pull that up real quick. Let me give you another source here. Any comments, guys, as I pull this source up?
No, you got it rolling. Keep going.
Yes. If you have the time to, for those who are making comments and getting frustrated in the chat, Proverbs 18 says, To ask them out before you hear it out it's a shame and a folly to yourself. So please just hear the matter out, and because Pastor is laying down the reason why he's saying this.
Let's see here. Oh man, what did I do with the? Yeah, I was putting this together, and let me make sure I got it here. All right, yeah, I did find it. Here it is. Oh, my thing was about to go dead on me, guys. I didn't realize my thing wasn't even plugged up on me. All right, let me copy this over real quick. I found it. And we'll place it right here. Let me scroll up. I thought I had it in here, family, but yeah, I have another source. And I want you guys to make a note of this. No, that's not the right one. That's still the same one. Actually, you know what? No, that is the right one. I'm looking at a different one. That is the directed one. I thought this was a different one. All right, my apologies, guys. I was looking at it wrong. Let me make sure. Yeah, this is the right one, family. My apologies. I thought this was. I have another source that I used, and I was getting it confused. Look almost the same. So this is the right one. This is the Catholic Church directive that they put out, right? And look at what it says here. I'll just highlight it here. It says in liturgical celebrations, in the song and prayers, the name of God in the form of the Tetragrammaton Yahweh is neither to be used or pronounced for the translation of the biblical text in modern language destined for the liturgical usage of the church. What is already prescribed by number 41, right, of the instructions of the Liturgium Authenticam is to be followed. And then it makes it clear to use Lord, Senor, give you some different pronunciations of it. But then it goes on to say here, in translating in the liturgical context, text in which are present one after the other, either the Hebrew term Adonai or the Tetragrammaton Yahweh, right? I'm saying Yahweh because that's how it's pronounced, or Adonai is to be translated Lord and the form God. So they're making it clear either to use what? Lord or God. Let me zoom it in. That's what I'm reading right there. All right. So I'll say this again. For those that want to be, I'm going to call you hypocrites. When someone that you favor is getting critiqued, one of their part on something about their work or something that they said or something is getting critiqued, and all of a sudden, can't we all get along? All of a sudden, you start coming into this, taking this divisive approach. But as long as the individual or me or whoever are bashing or not bashing, but going in on the Christian church, you're crickets. So this is not about Truth Unedited personally or anything like that. I am addressing this particular presentation that I do not agree. Because for me, it not only insults me and insults pretty much the entire community. Why? Because to me, it's creating division. That if you don't say Yahuwah, then guess what? You're going to hell. And that's basically what he was saying inside his presentation. That's stirring up more than saying, hey, look, guys, I understand you saying Yahuwah, you're saying this, you're saying that. We all still trying to get it right. Anyway, that's the issue that I have with what he said, what he stated. And I'm not going to change my stance on it, my position on it. All right. Go ahead, Berean Scholar.
And to land back on what you said, that's I used to use this analogy in ministry. That's the snake venom being passed on, but the snake get corrected. I've been in a situation before where somebody said something that was hurtful to the ministry. That person is found out and corrected, but the people who heard what he said goes on and pass on the wrong thing he did. Now the snake had repented and got corrected, but the venom he passed on still goes. So that's why you have to correct things that are harmful to the body when it's done in a public way.
Absolutely.
Right. And
Absolutely.
I want to say this too. He uses the Sefer Bible, which is why he's using Yahuwah and Yahusha for the Messiah's name, the Father's name, which to all be purposes is a Yiddish written book by Germans, by the people who call themselves Jews. So anybody who's reading that book and you're reading those names, that's what you're under their language. You're under their modern Hebrew language, which is what he talked about in his video that you shouldn't be listening to, but that's what he's speaking.
Well, and let me just say this real quick too, family. I don't rock with the Sefer Bible because this guy that I'm going to show you here, who created that Bible, let me show you the clip right here. I play this clip all the time. This guy right here.
Hitler was, and the Nazis, of course, expanded on Margaret Sanger's approach to eugenics, right? Eugenics was a movement that was born in the United States under hard doctrines of racism with the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African-American community in this country, right? To eliminate them.
I said this a number of times. His Bible was written to target our community. A money grab. That's what I believe. But you know what? Go to his channel. Do your research, because now he refers to himself as Judah. He calls himself Judah. He and his entire group refers to themselves as Judah.
That's right.
And the Sefer Bible was put together, with no type of I would say how can I put it? There was no groups, there was no council, there was none of that. It was basically, let's throw everything together. As far as let's put the KJV pronunciation, Bible there, and let's put Yahuwah there, put some Hebrew, Hebrew. I'm not even gonna say Hebrew, Israeli transliterations, and let's put the Hebrew Strongs. Let's put the Apocrypha. All the Apocrypha, not just the Apocrypha, but let's put the Book of Enoch's in there. Everything that they know that our people's going to gravitate to is in that book. The Book of Enoch in there, not even vetted.
Correct.
So, but anyway, we'll deal with that another time. But we want to keep it moving here, family, because like I said, I really don't know much about Truth Unedited. I'm not. So this is new for me about the Sefer Bible, far as the origin of where he is. But for me right now, we're just gonna focus on where he is right now. You know what I mean? But I just wanted to share with the people that same guy that many of our brothers and sisters that made rich off of that Sefer Bible, he calls himself Judah now. All right. So we already proved what the Catholic Church did here. The Catholic Church replaces Yahweh with forms such as Adonai, right? And then also Lord, in other words, Dominus, right? And he also the word God, Gater. Okay. So Exodus 23, verse 13. Let me go to a commandment here that all of us should pay attention to. And in all things that I have said unto you, be circumspect and make no mention of the name of other deities. As you see in the Hebrew, you'll see Allah Hayam. Neither let it be heard, Shema'ah, out of thy mouth, Payah. But the key is mention. Now, let me play let me show you the NIV version of it. Now, I'm not an NIV person because of getting into the manuscripts and all that. I'm not going to get into all that right now, but for the sake of here, I want you to see this key word here: invoke. Be careful to do everything I have said to you. Do not invoke the names of other deities. Do not let them be heard on your lips. Right? So this command is twofold. Israel must not substitute or invoke pagan deity names. Israel must keep Yahweh's covenant this distinct and exclusive. Now, I agree with his approach in understanding the commandments. We have to understand and obey the law, statutes, and commandments. But this is my hangup right here when we got to the names. The implication replacing Yahweh's name with titles used for other deities such as Lord, God, Theos, Deus or Deus, Kyrios, and is exactly the violation being warned against. Because the Father has a name. His name is Yahweh. And Adonai, that title is not master when you understand the proper context. Master is a Germanic word, but Adonai means superintendent of the house. All right, but anyway, Yahushua gave a stern warning to those who have changed and continue to modify any of the letters of the Hebrew alphabets. But nevertheless, I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole other teaching in itself. I encourage you guys, the book is going to be coming out soon, and I break all of this down. So what is the name gospel, right? I'm going to bring all of this out real quick, right? Gospel, good spell, right? Good spell. This is one of those words that many can't let go of. This word that's really been growing, really took its growth. I would say the growth from this word started in the late, I would say the early mid 90s, turn of the millennium. You see this word gospel being used because I grew up. We never said gospel. We said good news. We've never, and I grew up in the Baptist church. We've never used the word gospel. But now suddenly gospel, good spell. Look at here. It says literally good spell. What's good about a spell? Let's continue here. Let me get to a key point here. English word originally had a long O, but it shifted under mistaken associated with God as if God's story. So this is saying that instead of saying gospel, it's supposed to say God spell. Or if you get into the Norse, good spell, right? Or spiel. But nevertheless, let's fast forward here. Let's deal with spell real quick. Story, saying, tale, history, narrative, fable, discourse, command, report, discourse, tale, fable, myth, right? But here's the key. Set of words with supposed magical or occultic or occult powers, incantation, charm. So make a note of that, family. This word spell, because this is one of the things that many are battling with, even in this awakening, still using the term gospel, right? And they would say spell, spiel, story. No, in the culture of the Norse, this word spell referred to charms, casting magic spells, good spells and bad spells. Remember, no matter how old this etymology dictionary or whatever dictionaries you have that's supposed to be based upon the English language, the culture predates that. The Norse culture predates any dictionary that the Catholic Church put together. All right, but look at this right here. The term spell is generally used for magical procedures which cause harm or force people to do something. Okay, but let's get into a key point here. I want to fast forward here just for the sake of time. I want to bring your attention to Bragi. The Norse tradition is literally the god of poetry. Bragi, right? Braggadocious, right? Let's learn a little bit more about Bragi real quick. Is Bragi simply the god of stories in the Norse tradition, right? God, because Bragi is a deity, a mortal deity of spells. So to properly answer this question, it starts with the Norse goddess Idun, right? The Norse goddess Idun. Idun, she's called the Norse goddess called the Renewing One. In her Western garden, she grew the apples of immortality. Right? When you start understanding the apples, man, there's so many layers to it as far as apples and satanic worships, Wicca, and all these different satanic belief systems. But nevertheless, let's go ahead and continue. When her apples were stolen, the gods began to wither and grow old like mortals. Remember, we said the deities, the Norse deities, Gater or Gots, they were what? Mortal deities. So they're saying here, when her apples were stolen, the Gots, Gaters, began to wither and grow old like mortals. Idun's name, possibly of a feminine forerunner of Odin, could have been derived from Greece mountain shrine Ida, sacred to Rhea, or her alter ego Hera. All right, but let's continue here. Her consort Bragi became the greatest bards because she engraved the magic runes on his tongue, right? And Berean Scholar did a video on this, dealing with the runes, different symbols on his tongue. Makes me think about the Black Panther.
Yep.
Remember, they have runes on their lip, the inside of their lip. So again, she engraved the magic runes on his tongue. Magic runes. What are magic runes? I'm just going to show a quick source here real quick, and we're going to, just to further give you some clarity here, to show you that there's nothing good about good spells. It still points to witchcraft, charms, and all of that, regardless of how we try to make it into something else today. The origins of that word is what it is: spells, spell casting, whether it's good spells or bad spells. So runic magic, according to the sagas, runic inscriptions held magical powers. With the aid of inscriptions, you could predict the future, protect a person against misfortune, imbue objects with different qualities, or you could write down conjurations, curses, and spells. These are against the commandments, right? Most runic inscriptions that have been found, however, contain more down-to-earth messages, right? But it goes on to say here in the sagas, we hear how runes and magical words were used in relation to health. And eagle scholar, I'm not going to butcher this here. This person's saga, the scald eagle uses runes to cure a young girl who has been enchanted by false runes. So you had good runes and bad runes. You had true runes and fake runes, right? True or false. Eagle carved new runes, places them under her pillow, and as a result, the girl is healed. The moral of the story is that runes and words can be dangerous in the wrong hands. So, but the point is, all of this is part of what? Spell casting. So the word Gater, which now is in the scriptures, as far as in the Bibles that we use, God, all stems from this. And the Roman Catholic Church, what? They put out a directive. They put out their own laws. They put out what? Their edicts, their papal, to say, hey, you're going to use these words. And these titles is going to replace the name. All right. Let's see here. So, all right. I'm not going to go much deeper with Bragi, but Bragi, he's also, he's referred to as I pointed out here, a wizard. So he's a wizard, right? Wizard, witches, right? And Deuteronomy 18 talks about witches. All right. But anyway, any comments, guys, before I continue here? I'm just fast forwarding to get to a key point here. I was going to go through all of this, but I don't want to get to all.
I'm going to respond to the chat. I'm going to respond to the chat because things have been said. Because God's spell is not talking about the gospel, the four books of the New Covenant, New Testament. He's talking about the use of the word gospel as a transliteration. Please hear the whole matter out before making comments, because that's where you get sidetracked. You're not hearing the whole matter. So listen to the whole matter to hear the truth, not just the truth, but the reasoning behind the truth, because nothing comes without two or more witnesses. Using that law that was given in the Old Testament, Pastor Richard is always going to give you two or more witnesses to validate the truth.
And to Berean Scholar's point, right? and I'm sure it probably went over some of you guys' heads, right? Bashar, right? That's the Hebrew word that transliterates to good tidings or good story, right? But that word good stories or good tidings have been changed now to what? Gospel. Now, I'm not saying that Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and their testimonies that's invalidated. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying here, as I stated a number of times, words have meaning. There's a reason why the Roman Catholic Church pushed the word God versus the Father's name. And I just shared with you guys that. So when we say God spell, even that in itself, should raise questions. God spell versus good stories or good or glad tidings. So again, this, we're not discrediting the renewed covenant. I'm just focusing on the title that Truth Unedited he used, right? He used God. He shut down the word Lord, but he still used God. And I'm sharing with you guys the corruption of that title God and the association with it. Goes all the way to who? The Norse. And it refers to, and I didn't put it all in here for the sake of time, but that word God means it's connected to what? Summoning dead things. Literally, that word God in the Catholic Church acknowledges that. The word God is associated with summoning dead things, and that's all based off the Norse religion. So how did that get into the scriptures? How did that become something that's acceptable? It's called syncretism. I'm not going to go into the breakdown of it. Look up the word syncretism. That's what the Roman Catholic Church used to help grow their religion. Syncretism. Right? Everything goes. Mesh different cultures to still get their message out there. All right, so let's continue here, family. So this is another point that I want to make, right? I could go into details with the God and God, I truncated it because I didn't want to spend too much time with it because it is get late and I cannot be up at 1 a.m. I just can't do it, right? Especially on back-to-back nights. But I want to go to another quote here. Go back to this quote here. He says also here that the Hebrew Israelites, they use Yahweh, and that is based upon Abba Bivens and the influence of that also here, the Hebrew Israelites, they use Yahweh. So he mentioned Abba Bivens, he mentioned the Hebrew Israelites, right? He also mentioned the Masons, right? He also mentioned for us the Hebrew Israelites being connected to the Masons. Right. So insinuating that word, that the title Yahweh, not title, but the name Yahweh, he's trying to say that these are the origins of it based upon Abba Bivens and also this Masonic thing associated with it. And I'm going to touch on that real quick here. Abba Bivens, right? I did a little research on him. Abba Bivens is widely reported to have spent time in Ethiopia before establishing what became One West schools in Harlem. Accounts from former students and histories, right, of the movement states that he traveled through the Middle East and Ethiopia and was influenced by Ethiopian tradition before returning to New York. So this is one of the things I saw when I was doing some research on him, putting this together, that he went to Ethiopia a number of times, right? So why is that important? This creates a problem for the stance that Truth Unedited is making. This creates a problem because Truth Unedited argues Yahweh came from Abba Bivens in the camps. Even if we grant that premise, it does not prove that Bivens invented the pronunciation. If Bivens spent time in Ethiopia, then the obvious historical question should be asked. What is the question? Did he bring the pronunciation with him from an older tradition? So think about it. He was in Ethiopia. Ethiopia. Why is that important, family? Why is that important? Bam. Ge'ez. Actually, it's the proper pronunciation is Ga'az. Ga'az is the ancient Ethiopian Shemitic language before Amharic. And look at what this source says, EthiopianHistory.com. Before the 4th century, Ga'az, even though you see Ge'ez here or Ge'ez, had not made use of vowels, but the usage of vowels was incorporated into Ge'ez when the Ashkemites converted to Christianity, which occurred sometime in the 4th century, right? So it goes on to say, suggests that the reason that the alphabet was modified at the time could have been due to the wish to make biblical text more intelligible to newly literate. Why is this important, family? Look at here. This is how these words were pronounced. This is their letters, family. Now I'm zooming it in. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong. We can get Yahweh out of what we see on the screen, right?
Yep.
Do you see any O sounds? Do you see any U sounds?
And this is the language of Ge'ez, the Ethiopian Bible. Somebody said in chapter they read. This is the original language that he went and studied.
So we're dealing with Abba Bivens, right? That's what Truth Unedited made reference to. You do your research. Abba Bivens made trips to Ethiopia.
This didn't come from Freemason, right, Pastor?
Nah, and I'm going to show you the connection when we deal with Freemasonry. We're going to deal with Freemasonry in a second here, family. Going back to that word God. So look at what we see here. A, Ba, Ga, Da, Za, Ta'a, Ya, Ka, La, Ma, Sa, Sa'a, Sa'a, Ka'a, Ra, Wa, Za, Ha, Na, Sa, Ta, Fa. You can see Yahweh here if you wanted to use the letters of different sequences. I didn't go that far with it, but Yah, How, Wah. I'm just giving you guys just some, just giving you some illustrations here. So it wasn't just Ge'ez or Ga'az, also the Sabine language, right? Sabine into Ga'az. So before there was what? Ga'az, there was what? The Saba'an language. These are Shemitic languages, family. Anyway, so Truth Unedited dismisses Yahweh by associating it with Abba Bivens. Yet, if Abba Bivens' pronunciation was influenced by Ethiopians or related to ancient Shemitic traditions, then the lecture that he gave has an obligation to examine those traditions linguistically before rejecting them altogether. And that's the issue that I had with this particular teaching. I didn't see any linguistic historical research and information being presented. He said you could just do the research yourself. He said, I'm paraphrasing, but he said this is information you can look up. No, you don't leave it to the viewers. You get the information and you present it to them.
Correct.
Thank you.
Which is what you've always done. You do not teach anything without references to show. You've never made a statement.
And to Sister Carol's and Berean Scholar's point, whether you agree with me or disagree, you cannot say we don't show sources.
Correct.
Not one source, not two sources.
Several.
But I didn't see any sources. It's giving you what? An opinion. Because if you don't see sources, it's opinions. So simply tracing a pronunciation to a modern teacher does not invalidate it, especially when that teacher is claimed to have been influenced by an older linguistic tradition. So by failing to investigate the underlying traditions, right? Truth Unedited commits a major fallacy, judging the pronunciation by its alleged source rather than by its linguistic merits, family.
Correct.
So let me go to another point here, right? Research, right? It's all about presenting sources. This is part of his quote, and that is based upon Abba Bivens and the influence of the Masonic One West camp. This also not Hebrew, and it said it should be rejected. But he used the word Masonic. Family, if you got truth, if you know you firm and standing firmly on the truth, you don't have to bring others down. You just give your truth.
Exactly,
That's
and keep it
based
moving.
off the sources that you have. We don't have to bring down anyone over here at We Woke Now. We just give the truth. We give it to you, disseminate it to you, and then what? We put it on you to make the final verdict.
And can I add for those who in the chat who are confused about the title of this message? The title is just a quote from what came off the video.
Exactly. The reason why I said you Truth Unedited, you all are going to hell, is because that's the approach that he took for anyone that's not saying Yahuwah. You're going to hell. You know what I'm saying? And to me, that ties into that fire and brimstone teachings, not the Malcolm. I'm not saying he's going to hell, but he made it clear that, it's demonic. Demonic forces got us saying anything but Yahuwah.
And
did he not say that?
Right. Yet still, Pastor, that's still a great title, and it's what the Messiah, Yahushua, taught the disciples how to fish for men. People saw the title, came on, instead of listening, hearing the whole matter out, and finding truth, they want to argue with the title.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I blocked people before the presentation even started. You didn't even start the live, and I was blocking people in the chat. Now, let me ask you something. What did you say? I missed it because I was monitoring the chat. What did you say about Freemasonry and fraternity and sororities? What did you say? I missed all of that. What did you say?
We're going to get to that in a second. I said I was going to get to a key point about Freemasonry because he says here, based off this quote here, he says that Abba Bivens and the influence of that Masonic One West camp. So he says the Abba Bivens, the Masonic One West camps basically said this is where the word Yahweh comes from.
Okay.
He said this is also not Hebrew and it should be rejected.
Okay. Because someone just flipped out in the middle of the chat because it stated that can y'all be transparent and declare if you're Masons or in a fraternity or sorority? Never mind if I get blocked, I'll know.
Look, you know what? Block him.
And I'm like,
just block
well, he
him.
left anyway, I guess.
Yeah, because that's just trying to, that's just trolls.
I know it. Well, what's so bad about it? He's been giving you praise, and all of a sudden he flipped out when he heard Freemasons and fraternity sorority. So I'm trying to understand, what did you say? Because I know I hadn't heard you talk about it yet.
We didn't get to that yet. So
that's why I wanted clarification on, because I know hadn't heard anything. I've been monitoring the chat.
We didn't touch on that yet. So
okay. All right.
Because I don't even want to waste time on something that we didn't even talk
about. So what that tells me, this person has ties to that, and they're sensitive about it. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's all it is. We didn't even touch on this yet.
Okay, well, keep on driving.
Actually, we can ready to do it now.
Right? Well, get back on the freeway. We've gassed up at Buc-ee's now, so we get back on the freeway and drive. Go on.
Buc-ee's.
So, family, Truth Unedited used the word God. He made it clear. Now, and if I need be, I will go back to his video, going to the 29-minute mark, where he gave himself a pass using the word God as a title. So, again, he says here in his own quotes that is based upon Abba Bivens and the influence of that Masonic One West camp. This is also not Hebrew, and it should be rejected. So I want to start off with 2 Thessalonians, family, chapter 2, verse 3, chapter 2, verse 3 and 4. You guys know this, but I'm just going to read it real quick, and we're going to go into Freemasonry. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Verse 4, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called Elohim, or that is worshipped, so that he as Yahweh sitteth in the temple of Yahweh, showing himself that he is Yahweh. Now, I purposely placed that verse up there for a reason. We're going to deal with the son of perdition. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but I want to get to one key point, because it says, who exalts himself above all that is called Elohim. In your Bibles, it says God, right? Who is the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called, and your Bible says God, but again, in Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, it'd be Elohim. But here's the Freemasons' God, word for God, G-O-D, right? Here it is. The initials of Gomer, God, G-O-D, the initial of Gomer, Oz, Dabar. It is a singular coincidence and worthy of thought that the letters composing the English name of deity should be the initials of the Hebrew word wisdom, strength, and beauty. The three great pillars or metaphorical supports of masonry, they seem to present almost the only reason that an reconcile a mason to the use of the initial G. In its conspicuous suspension in the east of the lodge, in the place of the delta, that triangle family, that pyramid, the incident seems to be more than an accident. So, family, this is explaining what God means in Freemasonry. It means Gomer, Oz, Dabar. In other words, the worship of Gomer. But yet we hear Truth Unedited use the word God all through his presentation. That's the point that I'm making. If you're going to take the stance that he took, then you're going to have to be hardline right across the board. You can't say that you're going to hey, you better say Yahuwah. If you say anything else, you're going to hell, fire and brimstone. But yet you justify using the word God, because God, Freemasons, right? Freemasonry, ultimately, the whole dynamics of it is the worship of Gomer. That's the whole premise of Freemasonry, the worship of Gomer. So when you understand that square and that compass and that G in the middle of it, if you want to get into the ligam Yani, the Yani is the female delta, right? As we see here, the delta, but in the center of it, you see the letter G, that is the phallus. Come on, I'm giving you more than what you guys probably heard from anyone teaching this stuff right here. I'm not giving you ear candy or repackaged or recycled YouTube information. That square and that compass with the G in the middle, it doesn't just mean geometry. It's the worship of Gomer, starting with what? His phallus. Who won contest? Now y'all got me getting revved up off of this stuff here. So the word God is connected to the worship of Gomer. Phallic worship. So when we look at who Gomer is, for those that may need a refresher on this, let's go to Genesis. Let's go to Genesis chapter 10, verse 2. Let's see who Gomer is. The son of Japheth, Gomer. Let me say that again. The son of Japheth, Gomer. Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, Tyrus. But here's the kicker. Let me zoom it up in here, since I don't have the whole scripture up in my screen print rip. Look at here. The sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz. He was talking about in his presentation about the Khazars. The 1948 is right. But look at here. The worship of Gomer, and you see Ashkenaz. Whose star that you see many wearing, whether it's in the church or in this awakening? What stars are they wearing? Isn't it attached, associated with Gomer?
Yes, Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. And rim fat.
So, family, I'm saying this, and again, no, this is not going at the character of Truth Unedited. I'll say it again. I commend him. He put in a lot of work. You don't get to almost 1 million subscribers if you haven't been putting in the work. This right here, I disagree with, because the lesson that he did will cause more problems than good. To me, it's more division based off of that. Because guess what? Some of those people will be coming over here saying, hey, but this person said Yahuwah.
Excuse me.
Right? Sounding like Corinthians, right? That the same thing that Paul had to deal with when in his letter to the Corinthians. How people start carving out their favorites.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Pastor, because and for those in the chat who are saying that it's causing confusion in this awakening, Paul had to deal with the confusion in the awakening when it first started. Just like you said, he had to deal with people not teaching the whole truth. Yes, they were, like he said, fervent and believe what they were teaching, but they were not aware of the whole truth. So he just brought the whole truth to them. That's how you obliterate those false teachings, by telling the whole truth. And then it's up to you to make your decision.
And didn't Yahweh Shai have the same issue?
Exactly. Look what Paul said. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 12. Now this I say, that every one of you saith, I am of Paul, and I am of Apollos, and I am of Cephas, Peter, and I of Christ. Is Christ divided? Was Paul crucified for you? Well, Paul saying, man, that laid down my life for any of you guys. But he goes on to say, or were ye baptized in the name of Paul? I thank Yahweh that I baptized none of you, but Crispus and Gaius. He's saying, I'm glad I ain't had to baptize you guys. You Negroes are crazy. I'm glad I only baptized these two over here, because you guys are off the chain. Why? Because just what many of you guys are doing right now is it's not just dealing with the leadership, because it's the teaching I don't agree with, because it could create division. But it's the people that start creating this division, carrying out this stuff and making the division, like some of you guys are doing right now. I said nothing ill will about Truth Unedited, but I made it clear I am dealing with his doctrine. I'm dealing with what I just heard that didn't sit well with me. Why? Because I say Yahuwah. I'm not part of no camp. I'm not part of, I don't even know anything about Abba Bivens and all that other stuff. So it can bear false witness on those who's not even connected to any of those things. And then we have to deal with those arguments. Hey, I was just watching this here. Hey, he said this. What about you? What you going to do about that now, Hammer? So again, trolls going to be trolls, because every time I have to address something like that false prophetess, Celestial, proved that she was a false prophet. What happened? Same behavior. Why? Because she has a huge following. Right. But if I was talking about Juanita Bynum, crickets. If I was talking about Martha Menezes, any one of those guys, crickets. That's what Paul was dealing with right here. The same issue. The same exact issue. Look it up. Look it up, family. And he had to address it. And that's what we're doing here. We are addressing this here. No ill wills here. But guess what? I have to bring this out. At least for those that are here within the We Woke Now community. Because I know if it's going to seep in over here if I don't address it. Any comments, guys?
I just want to thank you for doing it.
Yeah, you nailed that one.
Because no other pastor would do this.
That's part of being a watchman.
That's right.
And family, I could break down the name, but that'll take that's that's a whole nother lesson. And some of the lessons are already up on the channel. So I don't need to go into all of that. But I can give you source after source. But one thing I can give you too, that I'm not going to let you guys go with this, I'm going to give this to you, is that why that is now being made into a vowel letter. Because the wah, even though now they pronounce it in va in the Israeli language, guess what? Was not pronounced as a U. It was not pronounced as a vowel letter. Not a single Shemitic language used the Y as a vowel letter, nor was it a Va. It was not called a U. It was not called a doubled U. None of that. That's all this modern stuff. So I can tell you emphatically, when you understand the why, it completely shuts down that usage of the name Yahuwah. Why? Because there were the why was not a vowel letter. There was no vowel letters in ancient Hebrew. So look at here. The second, and this is coming from Edward Horowitz, How the Hebrew Language Grew, page 29 and 30, right? And I think I left the book upstairs. No, let me show you this, guys. Right. I know I am presentable, but tonight I just kind of turned my camera off. But let me show you this. So none of you guys could think that I'm just I'm just putting sources up. You see this here? This is what I'm referring to. All right, it's on my desk here. So I want to make sure you guys it's not just a PDF. This is this source right here. All right. All right. So look at what it says here, and we'll use this as the final thought. That the second of the weak letters is why may surprise you, for it does not sound weak at all, and actually, it is not a weak sound. The answer is that the sound wah rather, a long time ago wasn't va at all, but wah. And why is weak, as we try to say is weak, but it said it drops out it drops out of large numbers of English. All right, let me see here. The Yemenite Jews of Arabia, who retained an ancient correct and pure pronunciation of Hebrew, still pronounce the wa as with the wa sound, as does Arabic, the close sister language of Hebrew. So even in Arabic and some of the other languages, you don't have a v sound, you don't have a u sound, because the wa was pronounced as it was with a w. Now in ancient Hebrew, it would have been wa, not u, right? Because now you're getting into what is called the colon, right? The colon va makes the o sound. The sharuk makes the u sound. The kibbutz makes a ooh sound, right? But when you deal with that, that's getting into what? The 8th century pronunciations. That's getting into the descendants of Japheth pronunciations. So I'm going to say this, with the issue that I had with Truth Unedited's teaching on this, you cannot just give what he came across as opinions. Why? Because I'm looking at where's he getting this argument from? Where's he getting this information from? Show me the sources. Don't just tell me that all the others are wrong. Show me why you say that all of the others are wrong. Give me something to go off of so I can say, well, at least I understand where he's coming from, even if I disagree with his premise. That's how you do it, family. That's how you provide information. Without a vision, the people perish. Write the vision and make it plain.
Hallelujah.
That's how you do it, family. Now, whether you agree or disagree, and some just plain off going to disagree with everything I say. But one thing you cannot say that I don't do is show sources.
Correct.
Exactly. And Pastor, for the comment from Humble Garden 7, who wanted you to teach about the name, I dropped a link in the chat of one of your teaching about the name and the proper use of the language. And if you want to know, they go to the channel, search the name, and you'll see several teaching.
Correct.
Several teaching about how to use the name, how the ancient Paleo Hebrew came about, and many sources that you can go and check yourself.
And also on the Patreon app as well.
And so, family,
thank you. Glad you remind me.
And so, family, I really appreciate you guys. Let me get some shout outs. I didn't even know there was some super chats here. Let's see here. What is the Silver Star? But we'll give I'll just give a shout out to Lisa Gibson. Thank you for the love and support. Really appreciate it. Let's see here. Sister Tiffany Samuels, thank you for the super chat, family. Let's show some love and support for all those that are supporting the channel. Family, we are family, right? And again, Truth Unedited and all those guys that are out there, I have no ill wills for them. I'm just speaking on the truth because when I heard, listen to the video, that didn't kind of disappointed me. It disappointed me, period, because that was such a hard line stance to take. And I'm like, man, how can you even say something like that? How can you even do a lesson like that if you don't say the name and you're taking this hard line approach, but yet you're using Elohim. Make that make sense. You're using God and you're using Elohim. Starting with Elohim, I can completely pick that whole European 1948er pronunciation of that word apart. Anyway, let me stop right there. Got my sugar up. But appreciate you guys. All right, let's see here. Any comments, guys, before we wrap it up?
I'm going to be dropping some links. I dropped a link to the Patreon, to your channel, for those who are looking for truth, because they can go and study themselves. And I'm dropping some more links. So if you want the truth, it's there. Study.
Absolutely. And family, I'm not ashamed to say I was wrong about things. I'm not ashamed, right? I repent and I keep it moving. See, again, a lot of you guys don't know. Sister Carol know this because she's been following me for quite some time. At one time, I wasn't honoring the Shabbat.
Sure wasn't.
I was actually shutting people down that was coming at me about it. Am I right, Sister Carol?
That's right. Fighting big time.
And they couldn't respond to what I was until me going over the Maccabees again, really studying the Maccabees. And by that time, I had gone through the law, the first 5 books again, making my another round across that. And then I started honing in on Exodus chapter 31 and all. I was like, wait a minute. And then repented and shifted. We start honoring Shabbat. It was we phased into it. We was doing Shabbat and we was doing first of the week services. Remember that? We was doing dual services.
You sure was.
So where all the other functions within the ministry got sacrificed because we were doing a lot of stuff we would normally do on Saturday. We had to cancel it. In the end, the people voted unanimously. Feast of Dedication. Right after we did the Feast of Dedication, the following Shabbat, they said we don't want to do any more Sunday services.
Correct.
And I didn't even I didn't say, hey, we're gonna hold a vote. They said, Pastor, can we just vote? We don't want to after experiencing Shabbat, we don't want to do Sunday worship anymore. And we've been out of that area for what over 8 years. I should say 8 to 9 years.
Correct.
Anyway, so we all have a starting point, family. There's nothing wrong with being wrong, even with the language. Guess what? It's not like I started this right off the back. I had it all wrapped up. No, wrapped tight rather. I had to grow. Anyway, shout outs to Harold Howard Floyd, thank you for the love and support. Family, let's show our brothers some love here. But with that being said, family, we getting ready to wrap this up. I'm gonna hand it over to you, Sister Carol, any final words, followed by you, Berean Scholar.
Just stay out of places that does not line up with the word, period. I'm reading someone that's made a comment about ancient Hebrew was unknown and that anything that we can use to understand the language has been altered by. No, ancient Hebrew was very much so known. It's up to us to go find it. It's there. It's been in our face the whole entire time. What they've done is not allow you to go back and find it, but it's there.
Absolutely. You hit it right on the nail. And I put this up on the screen for that person and others that are trolling. I'm not saying that person is trolling.
No.
But Yahweh, look at what it says here. Ancienthebrew.org. They even took this entry down off their site. But good thing I saved screen prints. Virtually all translations from Judaism and Christianity use the Lord for the Hebrew name God. And he put the tetragrammaton or the 4 letters here. The original pronunciation of the name can never be determined with complete accuracy, but in Hebraic thought, it is the meaning, right? Look at what it says here of the name of a name that is more important than its pronunciation. The Hebrew Yahweh, right? It says is the verb Hawa, meaning to exist, with the prefix Yah, meaning he. Notice he didn't put the I next to it, right?
Right.
Right.
Therefore, the word Yahweh, these 4 consonants, meaning he exists. Did he not just tell you the name of the Father?
And he also gave you pronunciation, but he minus the vowel.
He purposely put the wow.
Because he would have canceled out what he said in the first clip.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's also written in Psalms. If you go to Psalm 68:4.
No, I understand that, Sister Carol, right. But I'm just showing this here that others, so-called ancient Hebrew scholars, so to speak, they're confirming what we're saying here. But yeah, to your point, in Psalm 67 and other passages, it's there.
Correct.
Know, but in some translations would say Jah instead of Yah.
Right.
But the point here, go ahead, Berean Scholar.
And the tetragrammaton, and for those you are listening right now, look on the screen. You see the Yah, the Ha, the Wa, and the Ha. The tetragrammaton, those other letters are there. And you just saw that the oldest Bible that most people like to say, I like to hear people like to say this in this awakening, is the Ethiopian Bible. They only had 1 vowel.
That's right.
1 vowel. If you put that 1 vowel, and Pastor showed you, it was the Gayaz. If I didn't pronounce that right, Pastor, please correct me. And the Sabrin. And also you could have said paleo. 1 vowel. 1 vowel. And if you put that 1 vowel, not the O, not the U, you come up with what? Yahweh.
That's right. And on top of that, you say hallelujah all the time. You saying his name in that. Praise Yah.
Exactly.
So how you don't know his name?
Unfortunately, they silenced or made the Y into a vowel letter.
Yes, on purpose.
Because now hallelujah, right? Now you put a oo sound there versus halala waya. But anyway, we're not gonna get into all that. We about to do like the old school pass. We about to have a video that like the song that never ends, right?
No,
exactly.
No.
So, Berean Scholar, because I know Sister Carol, you good, Sister Carol? Any other comments? Or you good?
I was going to tell this person, they keep asking questions about how they can get some information. Those teachings about the language is on this channel, on the playlist, and also on his Patreon account. History, everything you want to know. If you want to email him, get some information, you can email him at we are woke now at gmail.com.
And the book be coming out soon, family.
Yes, and the book coming out soon.
Or so.
Even before the book, Pastor, this is my last things in closing. I have dropped in your chat 3 different videos that you taught on the name in detail for those who really want to know the truth. My plea to the people of the Most High, my plea to the Mashpabah, the people who want to know the truth, is to please study to show yourself approval. This is how to divide the language of Judah. Go back and find that. Read it. Go back and evaluate the word and what he brings out in his teaching, and then come to your conclusion. Then say, well, yes, when I came into this awakening, being a minister of 29 years exactly, I had a lot of stuff I had to repent of and be retrained in. And in this awakening, I saw how some people approach that. Pride can be the downfall in a lot of people saying that I can't be wrong. Now, I am proven wrong every time when I put myself against the Most High's word. So please listen to the message in the wholeness, in the fullness of what he's saying, because this is true for our people. We must know. One person said it's important for us to know the laws and the covenant and focus on that. Yes, but we're in covenant with who? Who are we in covenant with? So my plea, my desire for our people to know our Father's name, know our covenant, and walk in power. They kept it from us too long. We need to know his truth. For those who worship him will worship him in spirit and in truth. I now submit. I turn it over.
Appreciate it, my brother. Appreciate it, my brother. Well, family, we're going to wrap it up here in the words of Moses, or actually Yahweh that he gave to Moses. Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14. Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today will not have power over you ever again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the kicker, family. We must hold our peace. The Hebrew word that's in the text for that transliterates to the word peace in that text is charash, which means be quiet. Can't go back, can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.
There is something special about you, Judah. There is something special about you, Israel, or Yashara'al. When I say Judah, Yahawada. That is the ancient pronunciation of the word. There is something special about you, Judah. Yahweh only spoke to you, to us, as a nation. And he spoke to no other nation. That's why we are supposed to be what? That light. We're Yah's chosen people that's separated. We're supposed to be the nation that's teaching the nations, not the nations teaching us.
Lion of Judah come upon the earth, bringing unquenchable fire. All the tribes of Israel and the believers stand in power. Speak with authority, worship uncontrollably. There's something about you, Judah. Fire upon the kingdom of darkness. We may suffer for a little while, but joy cometh in the morning.
Judah special, no wonder we were a chosen vessel. In and out of captivity, weaving like a pretzel. Messiah come through the tribe, clean out the bloodline. We disciples, so put us up on the front line. Face to face with crime, cause we ain't scared to grind. When you connect the divine, we stay fresh for time. Evangelize, get defined, put us in prison in. Worship first, but we always invite the spirit in. All revival through a pen, stacking souls in empty bins. Joe in the morning, this a warning, you will never win. Fire upon the head of the serpent, he next tail chirping. It's too late cause your tail's already burning. I don't want your riches, gotta match it with gold streets. Movers all around me, the light shine, no police. The living used to be deceased, resurrected to a feast. Nothing like being in peace at the table with the meat.
Listen, Genesis chapter 11 verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14 verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means
Abraham too was Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel.